So we're still not seeing that line because actually we have to drag it under this paint layer. So now we see it. And now that I'm looking at it, I want to first of all hide our scope. Let's just isolate the revolver. Also gonna hide the flashlight. So I'm thinking I want to break up the edgeware into 3 parts. I want to have the cylinder to be controllable here with only this one. I'm gonna also give it the proper names. Edgeware cylinder. I'm gonna put a black mask on it. And now onto that, we can go into the polygon fill element mode and only have this. Now I want to duplicate that. And then I'm gonna call it edgeware revolver. So let's add another black mask to it. And then I want to have this piece, the barrel, this piece here, and also this piece. Those are the pieces that I want to control here with that folder. And then the rail had the problem, if I put that back on here, that is just too strong. So I want to have an additional control only for that. So let's copy this once again. And I'm going to call it edgeware rail. Let's have a black mask on it. And then again, we now have the selection for that. And now it's time to actually adjust it. So let me go back here into the settings for the cylinder. And let's go to the properties. I want that global balance to come down. So I'm gonna have it, let's see here, at 0.2. And I also want to go over here to that view to see it more from the inside as well. Gonna bring it down a bit more, or actually 0.2 might have been just fine. But what we can do is go to the brush pattern, and by increasing that, we add a bit more randomness here to it. So you see it like disappearing here in some of these areas. But other than that, I think this looks great here for that. Let's take a look at what other settings we have. And I think this one here, let's see if we put that up. It adds a little bit more here of this grunge, and I actually quite like that. So I'm gonna have that up a bit. Question is, do we need that sharpen layer? And I think I'm actually gonna disable it. So now we have the cylinder. Let's go to the revolver settings. Let's also go here to the mask editor. And then let's start here with our global balance once again. And I want that to come down quite a bit. So maybe I'm gonna leave it here at 0.09. And then let's take a look at it here from the other side. We don't have a triplanar button in here, but it seems to be already applying it anyway because we don't have any issues here where we have our UV seams. So I also want to get rid of the sharpen filter. I don't think we need that. And then let's take a look here at these settings where we have the brush pattern, which is sort of like working like a mask for that grunge. So just another look around here. And I think overall, this is looking better as it did before. It was a bit too strong overall. Let's see here for the global balance. Maybe I'll put it a bit up. 0.12. And now I'm thinking it might be a bit too strong here in this part. So I'm gonna go back to this mask here. And then with our mesh select, if we put that to a black, we can get rid of it. And then we're gonna add it here to the rail. So let's go to the rail and let's add this here. And then also let's go over here and let's bring that down quite a bit here for the rail because it was just too strong before. So I'm gonna put it all the way down here to 0.03. And then with our brush pattern, we can further do a bit of mask work here to it. And you know what? We don't need the paint here on that, but we can reuse it to further get rid of it here in some areas where I actually don't want it to be. So I'm gonna get rid of it here. It looks a bit too strange here, that padding. Or not strange, but it's just not necessary to have it here on this element so much. Gonna paint that away here. I think we can leave it here. But overall, I want this element here to be a bit more pristine looking. So that same work we could do here on the revolver. Let's also go to that paint layer, which by the way we're only using for this, so it's outside of our masked region right now, so it doesn't really add anything here right now, but we can then use it to do some additional masking here. It's just that when we look at it here from the front, we already have this nice chrome looking barrel there coming out, this inner barrel piece, and we want to have this kind of a contrast here with our painted material. So what I'm doing is I'm leaving like a few bits in place, but the majority I just want to erase it away here or mask it away, and that way we have this contrast there in place. We could also use like a grunge brush for it if you want it, but I'm just gonna do that here with a standard brush. So now we have really an obvious separation here with that, with our metal and the painted material. And I think that suits it better there in this place. So let's take a look. And I think that, yes, that edgeware now, I'm really happy with it. Let's re-enable our other objects. And I'm gonna take a quick look at my README, what's next. So one thing that I was spotting is that on this reference image, we have the same color that we have here at the inside of this piece. And I think that makes for a nice contrast. The only thing is that we already added this here to being the metallicness coming from the darker metal. So what we have to do first is go back here to this mask. And now with a with a black one, we want to get rid of this here. Takes a moment to load. And now we can use this mask and add some information here. And I only want it to be here on the inside. So like that. And now there was another thing that I thought might be actually kind of cool which is to have these bullets a little bit red here. I mean, it's personal taste whether you like it or not, but I thought that would be kind of interesting to catch this as a small detail. And for that, I want to go over here where we have the best view on the bullets. So let me go back here to the folder for the bullet, and then I'm gonna add a fill layer here. I'm gonna make it red, and then I want that to be metallic. I'm gonna add a black mask to it, and I have this under our wear and tear for it, so we also catch some wear and tear information. And now let's select here with a UV selection this piece, and that's all there is to it. So another thing is that I changed my mind on having this black caps here on the bullet, because think of it, if we look at the gun from that angle, it's just not as interesting to have like dark on dark material here as if we disable that and we get that kind of a look here. This is just more appealing to look at, even if it looks cool if we look at the bullet like this here to have it, but I mean, it's again personal choice. I'm gonna actually not have it. And another thing that I wanted to do is increase the roughness. Wait, let me think about that. Maybe a slight bit here for the casings to make it a bit more glossy. Let me just double check something here on our metallicness. Just want to make sure everything is metallic, and yes, so everything is working fine, and I think that little red detail, I'm quite liking it. So as you can see, I already checked off everything that we fixed. There's just one more thing left. The final thing before we are done, at least as far as I'm concerned. You can always go ahead, try out different styles, different colors. And for me, I noticed that the oil that we have put in place here, especially if we look at our roughness, is very strong here. It almost covers the whole region here and also here. And this is actually not what I intended. So I want to go back here to our oil, and that's in our wear and tear folder. And let's see what happens if we put the dust on top of our oil as we had it originally. That already fixes it a bit. But I also want to go into the settings and let's see what we can do here. I think I want to bring the overall level down a bit. Yeah, I think that was just too much. We still have it forming up then here in the areas where we had it before. If we toggle that on or off. But now is a bit more subtle. Let's just say, okay, we're gonna have it here in some areas, but not like covering the whole region as much as it did before. And I think now I'm happy with it. Yeah, I'm liking how this looks now. Okay. Well, here we are, our finished revolver. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's been a lot of work, and there were a lot of cases where I changed my mind as we went, you know, like both with the modeling and also with the texturing. But this is just a natural process when we do 3D art. So even if it might be annoying if you follow the tutorial and then I changed my mind, you know, with something like, for example, where first we created these screws here in Blender, but then I decided to get rid of them. This is all things that, you know, they just happen. And this is the same for me now that I do 3D modeling for over a decade in the industry. It's just a natural process, and whatever we do, it evolves, you know, as we work on it. And this is just the natural process of 3D modeling and texturing. So with all that said, we are still not done yet. We have to make our renders in Marmoset Toolbag 4. And I might, by the way, also make another segment which I release later after this release for Sketchfab. I want to show you how to make a really awesome looking scene in Sketchfab. And for now, what we want to do is go over here to our export textures. And then the way that this works is, here are our subpieces, our elements, and the global settings here. This is where we define, first of all, which kind of engine we want. This is the target engine. And then also where we want to export it to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have it here in a new folder actually, which I'm gonna call _marmo. Or you know what? Actually, I'm gonna call it _renders. Because Marmoset these days can also be texturing, and that way it's a bit more clear. So I'm gonna select that, and then our output template, I'm gonna leave it like this. What that means is that basically everything gets exported as one texture. So we're gonna have our roughness texture, we're gonna have our metalness and the normal map. It all comes out as one texture. If we would go down here and we select, for example, Unreal or CryEngine, then it would pack some of these textures into specific, you know, channels, like RGB channels of our PNG. So in order to basically have it the easiest way for, in our case now, the renders, I'm gonna leave it like that. And now all we have to do is decide what kind of resolution we want. So if you would export that for a game, you would probably put the flashlight and also the red dot scope to probably a 1K texture. But because in our case we want to make a really impressive looking render, we're gonna export it here as 2K for the flashlight. And also here for the red dot scope. But then here, this one, that's just a little dot. And we can then change that to something way smaller. I'm gonna have it actually here to 256 because it's really just a few pixels. And then our lens, this one, it also really doesn't need to be much. I'm gonna have it at 512. Even for our renders. I mean, if you want, you can crank it up, but it's really just the lens. And then our revolver, this one, I'm gonna actually put to 4K. If you would export that for a game, then depending what kind of game it is, if it was a first-person shooter, you would probably put it to 2K. If it was like for a third person, you could even try it with 1K or 512. So it's all about saving texture memory and all that. But this here are the settings I'm gonna have now, our texture sizes. It's gonna be exported as PNG. And we want that to go into this folder that we just created. Everything else I'm gonna leave that way. And then let's export. So I guess it was just exporting the 4K textures, which took a little bit extra long. So once this is done, we get the option to save our settings. And that way, if you save your Substance Painter scene and you want to re-export something, it will remember all the settings that we put and also the directories. So now the last thing that we want to do is also export the metallic version that we have for the revolver. And all we have to do is disable our painted layers, these two here for the cylinder and the body. And then let's re-enable our metal base. And now the only thing that is a bit of a problem is the wear and tear is now way too strong because of our metallic surface. So unless you want that kind of a look, what I want to do is go back to the wear and tear folder and I want to duplicate it, hide the one that we have for our painted version. Maybe we can also call it that, global wear and tear paint, and then global wear and tear metal. And then we can fine tune that here a bit more. The main responsible actor here for this strong look is the dirt. So I'm gonna bring that global balance down quite a bit. Maybe here 0.25. And then it's already looking better now, but let's see for the dust. The dust, I'm gonna also bring that down a bit. And then we have this oil, which I think I'm gonna disable entirely because we already have a lot of gloss on it anyway and we don't need more gloss. So now let's go down to that metal base here and let's have another look, because it already comes with some wear and tear by its own. And this is this dirt here. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we can also make that a little bit less as it was. So I'm gonna have it here to 0.22. I don't mind how it looks here, but it's a bit more subtle now. Let's take a look at it here. Maybe a little bit more again. 0.3 for that. And another thing is that earlier I put the brightness up a bit here for it, but I'm thinking I want to turn it back down a bit. So I'm gonna have it like this here. And now we have a nice metallic version here. We even get a little bit here from the edge wear that we still have on top. And I think this actually looks good. That is a little bit more bright in these areas. So we could also disable that, but I think that makes it a bit more interesting here. By the way, when I worked on that tutorial, or when I started, the reason why I wanted to make that gun is because I saw this picture. And I thought this looks so cool that I wanted to make exactly that revolver. And of course, then I also had to add this scope on top because it just looks so cool with it. And then I made that and I figured, why not also add a flashlight? And this is why these tutorials always take me so long, because then I'm starting to get all these ideas and it just takes a very long time to finish. But I hope you like it and I think it was worth it. I'm definitely very happy with this tutorial and I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. So now let's go back here to our texture export settings for that. It still remembers the folder, but now we can disable everything aside from the revolver. And I want to now actually go to the global settings, and I'm gonna make a subfolder here where we already have the textures, and I'm gonna call it Revolver Metal. Select this folder, and then we still have it set to 4K. So let's just export it again. And essentially that is the tutorial then. We're gonna be making some killer render as the next thing in Marmoset Toolbag 4. And like I was saying, or I'm not sure if I said it, but I was thinking to also make a Sketchfab tutorial at some point to show you how to make a nice scene there. Sketchfab recently got bought by Epic, and it's been around for a few years. I have most of my weapons also on Sketchfab, and it's a very nice way to present your 3D art in a 3D viewer that you can look at in the browser. So this is it. In that case, I'm not gonna save the settings. So now we have all our textures exported. Let's make some really nice looking renders in the next chapter. I'll see you there.